You good?
Alright, so our team project was on difficult conversations. We started off with a sort of broader topic of self-awareness and leadership and confidence, competence and leadership, and sort of drove that down into a difficult conversation and why we might find it difficult to have a conversation because of our own confidence or self-awareness and what we might need to do around having decent conversations. So we sort of come up with this statement here: difficult conversation is one which you have to manage emotions and information in a sensitive way to deal with an issue. And if we just run through the first introduction page there, it's likely that you probably already had one or need to have one at some stage in your leadership programs, if you like. And it can be around poor performance, behaviour of a team member or employee, and you might receive complaints or something like that, or conflict amongst yourselves, amongst your team members that you have to deal with, and also communicating business change or tougher decisions that have to be made. So the conversation, the difficult conversation, will involve normally topics that you don't want to talk about, which is why you maybe tend to shy away from it a wee bit. But it's important to have those conversations, and there'll be conflicting opinions which would probably have arisen from the conversation to start with and be required anyway. So we're going to look at in the next few pages here, why we might put it off or not want to do them, and why we need to have them. The best time and place maybe to have the conversation may not always be at the it might not always be right then. You might have to sort of roll back a bit. What you need to do to prepare for the conversation, some techniques and tools to be able to have that and deal with the situation, and some solutions and some outcomes that you might want to get out of those conversations. So, Hannah, here.
Yeah. Okay. So probably having these conversations in preparation is probably before the conversation is one of the biggest parts. Making sure the way you plan it, you're obviously got to know the person you're having this conversation with. So foreseeing the outcomes that you want to achieve with that personality, with the person, and knowing what their outcomes might be with their personality as well. So foreseeing what can happen, and planning the opening of the conversation, make sure that it's to the point, it's obvious, it's open, and to make them feel as comfortable as possible. So communicate efficiently, make sure you get your message across, and make sure you bring the right evidence, examples. We'll hear about that fake news, so you don't really want to get down that track. And anticipate their responses and the reactions that they might have. So, like I said before, you're going to know the personality you're dealing with, so you probably work with them all day, or most of the time, and you know how they're going to react to different situations. So, having a plan for what you think they're going to come back with, their objections, or your objections, their objections as well. Like I said, the emotions, behaviours that they're going to display, and that you want to also display to make sure that it's kept calm, kept real. And then closing the conversation, you want to make sure that you actually have a way going forward, and you've actually communicated what you want, and that you can have time frames. You make sure that at the end of it you've given them time frames, and that you've both communicated what you want from the conversation and what their responses are, and that you're on a level page and you can go forward.
Thank you. Well, the project was split up into four, one for each of the members, and we've been through the planning phases and whatnot, and mine was revolving around the outcomes and physically having that difficult conversation. And so we've got some tools like in a toolbox here, some like dot points, which I'll run through, and this is to sort of give you some ideas and a way forward with having the conversation. Okay, so when you're physically having the conversation, we need to have the acknowledgement first. And when you're having that difficult conversation, they have to know that there's something wrong, or that there's something going astray somewhere. So we're going to clarify what they've said, acknowledge their point of view, and we need to be aware that acknowledgement is different from agreement, and also acknowledge their feelings. And at that point, we can then reassess our own position. Okay, so we can clarify our position without minimising theirs, and know that if the position has changed after hearing their side of the story, we may want to rethink where we're heading with this. If the conversation becomes adversarial, we can go back to listening and questioning also, so we don't want it ending up in being an argument. Then we need to look for solutions. Okay, so we may want to make suggestions to them about how things could be altered or done differently. Be willing and open to finding different solutions than the one that we have locked in our head. And also remember that the best solution satisfies both parties. Then we need to close the conversation, agree on some actions and points. Note what actions and points are going to be action, gain the employees' agreement and commitment to carry out those actions, and also thank them for where they've gone so far. We need to keep notes while we're doing all of this, because we need to reflect on it. We need to then sort of set a date to follow up. We don't just want to leave it at that point. We need to make sure that we allow some adequate time for them to effect some changes, and then revisit again and follow up with a further conversation, and look and have those actions being carried out. And then we get to the point where what's up, we can't resolve it. What's up, it's too difficult. What can we do next? How can we escalate it? Okay, so we can always go up our management structure to a higher authority, seek outside advice, employee assistance is always there, and of course we've got an HR department as well. So that sort of concludes our presentation. So we'll field any questions.
Family and friends?
Yeah, I've got a challenge for you three actually. So of course I know you reasonably well in a professional sense, and I would challenge you to the next time you're in a situation where you have a choice to make, whether you have an effective conversation with someone or you go, you know what, I'll let that wash over me this time. To take that up and see it as an opportunity to book some time with that person or that situation, various people, okay, and have that challenging conversation and give it a proper crack. Okay, so it's really a challenge. I mean, a lot of the times, all of us, it's just too easy, isn't it, to go, you know what, in 24 hours time, both of us or that person would have calmed down, and I bet you it'll be a non-event, but maybe take the alternate path, the more challenging path next time, and really take it on.
Yeah, I suppose that's where we initially started with the self-awareness portion of it.
Yeah, we were aware that we need to work on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for me is, so we've talked about real conversations and difficult conversations. So what do you see the difference between the two of them?
This is probably more in an area where, disciplinary type thing is around the corner. We're getting very close to, trouble sort of breaking out, and we'll need to nip it in the bud. Shut that behaviour down.
Potentially having a lot more real conversations would avoid getting into a difficult conversation.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
We saw the first presentation and there's a lot of crossover.
Can you talk a little bit about the strategies for dealing with different responses? there's lots on there, and I just wondered if we gave it, the attention that we've given it.
That was Vaughan's.
Oh.
Decided for Megan.
Yeah. So for those who know, can you share it a little bit? That does look quite interesting. Yeah, can you share
Yeah,
it?
so they do tie in with the planning side of it, and what you might see also when it actually starts happening around some of the behaviours that people might start to exhibit when you start having these conversations.
Can you talk us through one, just from what's up there? Who's the one I'm looking for? Blames or attacks is probably one that people will sort of they'll fire up if they think they're right and you're having a crack at them, they'll tend to mark up back at you. So it's just having the tools and the self-awareness to be able to just calm the situation down and not let it deteriorate to that point.
And that was one of the points with the outcomes. That becomes adversarial, go back to listening and questioning. So it's just a tool to overcome that.
So I did like you're looking for solutions there that you presented there, Warren. You know, I think that's a very valid point. You know, and any leaders may not be entirely right from the get-go.
Yeah, and that's why we need to listen to what they're saying, put yourself in their shoes, listen to their side of the story, and it may alter your opinion.
Well, also you're looking for a solution, aren't you?
Yeah.
So solutions sometimes are compromised, but depending on the severity. But I did also really like that discussion about having a real conversation before it gets to this point. However, that doesn't always work, does it?
Yeah.
So you often find yourself in this situation, and planning is an extremely important part of this, having a strategy.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about that, and an escalation route as well.
Yeah. And so that's where solution that satisfies both parties is normally the best outcome, provides the best outcome.
Who's your missing person? Warren.
So have you guys thought about our next steps in terms of what you've got here? So clearly you don't have space in the workplace to put this up to keep you on task if you need to engage in those conversations. Equally, maybe you could share with your respective leaders what you've done here to support them with the conversation. So have you thought about what you might do next?
So like what Todd said, really, just next step is actually just to grab one and start that conversation.
Yeah, but like in terms of the content you've got
Yeah,
some really good stuff here. You've got a toolbox.
Well,
You're engaged with the team here. You've probably learnt and had discussions and are better positioned to have the challenging conversation like Todd has challenged you.
Well,
But for someone who isn't, like, have you thought where you could take this content? Is ultimately what I'm asking.
Where would you have found it if you had never done it? Would you be able to find this easily?
It's just come about through brainstorming.
Yeah. I wonder if there isn't an opportunity there.
Could be an action item for Warren as not present.
Yeah, because just if you had it on a laminated A4, that'd be awesome.
Or in the leadership.
Well, it is a
It's sort of a document so we can do something like that.
you could do a laminated copy if you want. Around all the big hand desks.
Oh, don't mind me, just checking. Looking on our shoulder.
You've been destroyed.
No, you covered it. It's about recognising the need. You get to that point where you've had various conversations maybe and you've descended an extra step. And this type of thing is needed. It's about recognising it and tackling it, making that internal decision to tackle it instead of letting it wash over you. And that's the difficult one. Yeah.
It's that piece where I always think about if you're thinking about it on the drive home or in the shower and the next morning, you know that you should have said something. And so it's okay to acknowledge those times, but next time you're going to think, right, I'm not going to let that happen again. And what tends to happen off the back of that is you're providing consistency to your team. so you're not addressing one piece and missing something else. So just trying to get those consistencies, but you know when you've missed it, and you think about it later.
Inside, don't you?
Yeah.
You do. Yeah.
Well, I think you set out a really good roadmap here, actually, that would be good to have available. You know, because we've all got, we all learn by mistakes, and I bet you as we move through a difficult conversation, a lot of mistakes are made, and this could be a really good cheat sheet. Refresher.
I think what goes hand in hand with this though is that if you were just to kind of come out of the gates and go, right, let's tackle a conversation, we're going to pick one of our team and do this, I feel it's equally important though to spend time leading up to that point to really investing in being a leader in terms of connecting with your people. So connecting in a way that you're actually filling that relationship you have. They talk about filling your piggy bank, I suppose, and your trust. Because without that, that's what makes it so difficult. Whereas actually if you kind of try and front this as opposed to ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, front it by being a leader who's truly connected to your people. You know what makes them tick, you know about their home life, their family, what's important to them, why they come to work, what's their purpose and where's their joy. It will make them receiving these difficult conversations a little bit better as well. So great to see the focus here, but equally throw as much energy and focus and building those true connections with your team.
And the positive, and the positive
Yeah,
reinforcement.
absolutely.
The old saying, you should give 5 positive reinforcements before you have a real conversation.
Yeah, otherwise you've just pulled the stopper out of the video, there's nothing in there. And I think to Tanya's point, if you've done that foundation setting, HR, we're trying to move towards having a less punitive environment and being a bit more creative around coaching and support and thinking, what is the actual outcome we want from this individual? If they are a performer, how do we get them to be a high-performing, engaged employee rather than just slap them with formal letters and come along and have tea and cookies kind of thing, So if you have set those connections in that foundation, these just become part of that puzzle to then get them to be engaged, which is our job as a leader, right? To make sure people are great at what they do. Absolutely. Well said, everyone. Yeah, very good. Well, with that, we'll thank our presentation team.